Oh no, my headphones aren't picking up the sound. I thought I had everything sorted out. I had such a profound introduction to make. I was so jazzed that everything was working out, and now, dadgummit, nothing's coming through my headphones. But let me just start with my introductory point. So I've gone much of my life thinking I was operating in a merit economy, when much of the time I was operating in a prestige economy. What's the difference? Well, in a merit economy, merit is the number one consideration. In a prestige economy, prestige is the number one consideration. So I was just looking at the news about the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, and I was wondering, why does it seem like the news, the elite news media in particular, are all singing from the same hymnal with regard to this summit? Like, what the heck is going on here? And what's going on is that the incentives driving elite news are not primarily incentives pushing the telling of truth. Instead, other values receive a much greater reward. And it's not that hard to understand, in that if you had the opportunity to speak up and tell the truth, and it was going to cost you your job, your status, your family, your friends, everything that you hold sacred, would you still stand up and tell the truth, even though it's going to cost you everything you hold sacred? No, in all likelihood, you would not do that. And so the elite news media operates in a system where prestige is the most important thing, and you don't always get prestige for telling the truth. So I was just looking at news coverage of the Trump-Putin summit, and we got Peter Baker here of the New York Times. And I've owned many of his books, loved many of his books, and I think he has a long, proud history as a fair-minded journalist. But since the rise of Donald Trump, he has lost his objectivity. So in his latest article for the New York Times, headline, Trump bows, right? Trump is bowing to Putin's approach on Ukraine. No ceasefire, deadlines, or sanctions. The net effect of the Alaska summit was to give President Vladimir Putin of Russia a free pass to continue his war against his neighbor indefinitely without further penalty, pending talks on a broader peace deal. Ooh, sounds embarrassing for Donald Trump. Bad for America, bad for the world. Financial Times, no concessions. No ceasefire. How Putin outplayed Trump in Anchorage. Not good. Washington Post. Trump's pursuit of a quick deal makes it easier for Putin to dictate the terms. Washington Post again. Russia sees victory as Trump adopts Putin's approach to ending the Ukraine war. Wall Street Journal. Putin returns to Moscow with air of triumph after summit. The meeting with Trump helped give the Kremlin leader much of what he wanted, including putting Russia on an equal footing with the U.S. Did you know that Russia, despite an inferior economy and an inferior military, is now apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, on equal footing with the U.S.? How is Russia on equal footing with the U.S.? Because Trump and Putin talked, and somehow that gives Russia equal footing with the U.S.? New York Times, Ukrainians fleeing Russia's attack say the Alaska summit was an insult. Evacuees at a shelter in eastern Ukraine reacted angrily to talk that land that had long been theirs could be given to Russia in exchange for peace. Whoa. And there is just dominant uniformity in the mainstream media coverage of this summit. And I don't have a point of view on this summit that I want you to believe. I don't have any hidden insights. I don't have any scoops about the meaning of the summit, the significance of the summit, what was discussed privately, what's going to come out of this. But I do notice this pattern, that there is a uniform reaction of derision on the part of the mainstream media with regard to this summit. And so what the heck is going on here? All right, I suspect that the truth is more nuanced than what we're getting. So what's going on? And this little excerpt here, which I'm not going to be able to hear until I figure out my sound settings, maybe this will help.
She was living in a positivistic world where knowledge looks like this. In a positivistic world, knowledge is just built up over time, and anytime you find out something that people didn't know, you get to just add up to this model, and knowledge just keeps on growing and everybody's happy. And that is dead. Well, mostly dead. Here's the model now. Sorry, these are people. These are human beings. There are conversations moving through time. And there's a bunch of people, and they get to say what knowledge is. And that horrifies you. Why would those people get to say? Why did they get to say? Especially because, historically, of course, they've looked just like me. As my niece says to me every time she sees me, too male, too pale, too stale. Why on earth would these people get to say what knowledge is? I get it. I get it. Big problem. But they do. That's a fact. These people get to say what counts as knowledge. The good news is they are changing. Way too long, way too late, way too slow, but they're changing. But the point is, that's the way it works. You may not like it, but that's the way it works. They get to say. So they get to say, yep, you're right. That was new. I didn't know how many people were in 302. But it doesn't count as knowledge. It doesn't have any value to us. It doesn't count.
Okay, so it's